Nothing like having a little technical difficulties when you're trying to get started on a webinar. Anyway, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I won't waste too much time since I'm starting a little bit later than usual. My name is Morgan Remmers. I am Yelp's Manager of Local Business Outreach here on the West Coast, and I'm excited to be talking to you today about the importance of Yelp reviews and the way that you go about responding to them. So a couple things that we're going to be talking about today. First, we're going to kind of set the stage and discuss who uses Yelp and give you just a broad overview of why people are turning to our site, why they're using it. We'll then go into some easy Yelp responding to reviews 101. So it's easy as 1, 2, 3. It really is a three-part process before you can dig into crafting the great responses that you want to be crafting. From there, we'll talk about and provide some actual examples from business owners that are doing a great job responding to every review they're faced with, whether it's good, bad, or funny. You're going to get some real insight into the ways in which business owners are having success in engaging in what's being said about them online. And then finally, I'm going to provide you with some shortcuts on how to keep on top of all of it. If you are a restaurant or a business that has a higher frequency of review contribution to your page, we're going to make it quick and easy. If you get reviews less quickly, for those people who work on more long lead businesses and clients, we're also going to figure out a way for you to, or I'm going to share a way for you to not have to worry about constantly logging in to find out if someone's reviewed. We'll make it a very quick and easy process for you to keep on top of everything. Sound good? All right, so let's dive in. First things first, who uses Yelp and why do they use it? Well, there's a few things as far as why Yelp exists to begin with. Little known fact is that actually our CEO and co-founder, Jeremy Stoppelman, almost 12 years ago now, 11 years ago to be exact, moved to San Francisco and got sick. And he couldn't find anything online that allowed him to understand, you know, the doctors with the best bedside manner or the doctor that could take that last minute appointment. At that time, in the age of the internet, the only thing that existed online were doctors' personal websites and insurance pages that allowed you to know whether or not your insurance would cover a particular doctor in network or not. So this entire idea of Yelp was born. It's really there. Yelp exists to connect people with great local businesses. And over the course of time, we have grown to have 75 million monthly unique visitors on desktop visiting us as of Q4 of last year. And what's more is that we've got 95 million total reviews that have been added to our site since inception back in 2004. To add to this, our fastest growing segment is our mobile audience. We have an additional 86 million monthly unique visitors turning to Yelp to make buying decisions using that smartphone, the computer in their pocket. In addition to that, now over 56% of our content between reviews added to business pages and photos uploaded to business pages are coming from mobile devices. And even more compelling than that is that 70% of our searches are coming from mobile devices as of Q4 of last year. So this consumer audience that's turning to Yelp, they're turning to Yelp to figure out where to go next, the business that's going to provide the best needs, and they're doing so on the go. As far as the makeup of the audience themselves, in terms of our North America demographics, they're relatively affluent and educated adults. 70% are 35 years of age or over, 77% have a college degree or higher, and 65% are earning $60K annually or more. Of that 65%, there's about, I believe it's about 34% are making $100K or more a year. So they've got disposable income and they're ready to come spend it with you. If that isn't enough as far as what we assume people are doing on the site, Nielsen actually found that 82% of consumers visit Yelp because they're intending to buy a product or service at a local business. To add to that, 89% of those people are making that purchase within a week's time. And if you do the math on the pie chart there, you'll notice that within a month's time, 98% of consumers that turn to Yelp to make a spending decision are doing so. So it's pretty compelling information. All this to say that this really boils down to your online reputation. What's being said about you from past customers? How are you framing up the situations that don't go so well in terms of the way you're responding? really it's all about that third-party testimonial nowadays. And I think that that's where this particular webinar will hopefully come in hand when you're kind of faced with a new review, whether it's good, bad, or funny. So getting started on responding to reviews, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. The quick breakdown of it is as follows. So step 1. You want to log into Yelp for business owners, and now you have 2 ways of doing that, right? You can log in via desktop at biz.yelp.com, or you can download our free mobile app for business owners, which is available on iOS or Android stores. You can also go to this link here on the page that allows you to request a text message or email to download the actual app on your phone. So entirely up to you, but you can respond to reviews simply by logging in on either platform. From there, at least on the desktop, you have a screen grab here that you can check out. You'll want to go ahead and when you're logged in, click on the reviews section within Yelp for business owners, within your business account. Same thing goes on the mobile app. You'll actually have an option to click on the reviews within the app, and you can select the review that you want to respond to. All right, step 2. So pretty easy. Logging in, locate the reviews. Step 2, you're going to be prompted if you've never responded to a review before. You're going to be prompted to upload a photo of yourself. Why do we do this? Well, we are a community review site, and we want to make this online connection as close to an offline one as possible. So you're going to be prompted. You want to make sure it's a real photo of yourself, much like the vast majority of our users are using real photos of themselves, their real first name and last initial. In order for you to respond, you want to have a photo of you. Don't be wearing sunglasses, but it is something that you'll be asked to do before you respond to any reviews. And then finally, step 3, the fun stuff, where we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of today's presentation, is determining which response tool is best suited for the review at hand. Couple quick tips when it comes to the 2 response tools that you have available underneath every review on your business page, or near every review on your business page. Private messages. A private message, if you were to go this route, is much like an email exchange. It's a direct message that goes to that person's Yelp inbox, email inbox, and you can send them a note that essentially either says, thank you so much for your feedback, or, hey, it sounds like there was a less than fabulous experience that you had at my business. Would love to figure out what went on, how can we rectify the situation, so on and so forth. Public comments are great for 2 things. One, it's a great use of a public comment tool to show off the great rapport you have with your happy customers. If you remember a customer specifically who wrote a review for you later on based on their description of the interaction they had with you, that is definitely a great way to go ahead and just share, the great rapport you recall with them. A public comment is something that appears directly underneath the review itself for any future consumer to see. So you want to make sure you're diplomatic and you're professional, but you're also showing off your personality. Also, public comments are great in the less than positive reviews that you might receive for your business. What I'll say is that businesses who respond diplomatically, show off that they care, it really goes a long way with consumers that are just observing your page for the first time, because they're seeing that you're interacting, you're absorbing the feedback, and you're really showing that your business matters to you, and the feedback that you're getting is important, as it is an important part of that, excuse me. So when in doubt, when you're kind of facing something or faced with something, we have a review response flow chart. This is kind of just a general best practice, but you can always feel out the situation based on whatever the review itself says that you're looking at or considering responding to. The review response flow chart is something that I will send out in it's an ebook. I'll send it out in the follow-up email to you. There's a link to it. You can download it. It's a full comprehensive book, and this is one page in it that's really helpful. Kind of reminds me of a choose your own adventure when it comes to the reviews and kind of going down the set of flow in terms of the way that you may want to consider going about responding. So let's talk about what your peers are doing when it comes to the good, the bad, and the funny reviews. Before we dive in, though, I want to just say that the good news is that of the 95 million reviews that have been posted to Yelp over the course of the last 11 years, nearly 80% of them are 3 stars or higher. In fact, if you're looking at that pie chart now, you're going to see that 68% of the reviews on Yelp are 4- and 5-star reviews. So more often than not, consumers do like to share that okay to excellent experience that they've had with a business. But in reality, you can't please 100% of your customers 100% of the time. And so know that every once in a while, there may be one of those critical or negative reviews that's written, and that's where we're going to talk about how to best handle and approach them. So with that in mind, let's talk about the bad reviews or the negative reviews that you might receive. So first things first, before you do anything, you want to make sure you check yourself before you wreck yourself. What I mean by that is that when you get a negative review, I've heard it, anything from it feels like a punch in the stomach, it feels like somebody called my kid ugly, it feels like somebody lit my pants on fire, I'm so heated, I'm so angry at this situation, or how could this person say that, right? So as much as you want to drop your laptop off the Empire State Building because you're so enraged, you just don't want to do this. You don't want to lose your cool when you're writing that response, right? So just make sure that you keep that in mind. And also know that Yelpers actually who mention good customer service in their reviews, we found are over 5 times as more likely to write a 5-star review than a 1-star review. So in the instance that you start off with a little bit of a negative review, providing great customer service and taking advantage and utilizing the tips that we're going to go through today could result in a better review over time. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's take bad example number 1. So this is a negative review. Things that I like to think about when you are framing up, how do I respond to this negative review or bad review? Say thank you, acknowledge them, thank them for the feedback, thank them for taking the time. Respond as promptly as you can, and then outline your plan to fix the issue at hand. So here's kind of one very simple example. So there's a 1-star review that's posted on this hotel, July 13, 2014. In the middle of the review itself, they say, I found 2 long black hairs with a neatly rolled up washcloth in the bathroom too. Seems like those would be pretty hard to miss. All right, so not a great review. There's black hairs in the towels that this person was going to use when they checked into this hotel room. So business owner responds and says, thanks for taking the time to Yelp at us, especially while you're here. We agree that this is utterly unacceptable and we'll be in touch with you imminently. Within 3 days, so the initial review, if I go back here, initial review is July 13. Business owner responds. 3 days later, the business or the consumer goes from a 1-star to a 4-star review and says, this is our 4th night here, and I have to say that George has turned me around, the George Hotel. Someone called the day after I wrote my initial review, apologized, and laid out their plan to make things right. And true to the word, we've had a very good experience or good service ever since. So service, key component here. What you'll see down below in the response from the business is they updated their public comment. You're able to do this within your business account. And you'll see part 2, it says, hooray, we're so excited we could turn everything around for you here. Please let us know if there's anything further we can do. Thanks again, Clayton, front office manager. So phenomenal example of how to turn things around, how to act on it, how to outline your plan to fix the issue at hand. Let's take another example here. Initial review, January 25. This business, Bunky's Cafe, gets a 1-star review. The consumer says, sadly last night was a night to forget and bury. All my prior meals and takeout from Bunky's were whisked away with the bad food and service we received. For a not-so-busy night, our waitress was consistently gone. The food took forever to arrive, and then once it came, we had to wait 5 minutes for plates to eat off of. Our dish was supposed to be delicious seafood to share for 2. Instead, it was a rubbery, overcooked fish trio. Even the shrimp and the bread were bad. They go on to end with, my husband had to console me at Monning's down the street with pecan pie and hot coffee. All right, so there's a lot to work with here. There's a lot to address, and so let's see what the business said. 3.3, so they go on to say, thank you for taking the time to write this review. We always appreciate the feedback. The land that we're using is local and does cost on average $2 to $3 per pound to us. We'll definitely discuss this further with our staff. We hope to have the privilege to see you again. So while they didn't want to address the lateness in terms of the service, they did want to talk about the expensive food and really address and make sure that that was being clear or was clarified within the review for any future consumer to see. So what happens? A little bit later, I had a bad experience. So what happens next? Bunkies wants to make it right, and I give them credit for that. They contacted me, spoke to me on the phone, apologized, and want me to come back. It's not easy saying something you did was not right or great, so kudos, Bunkies. Not every business owner would do that. I'll update my review once I'm back. So they went ahead and went from a 1-star to a 3-star just from the simple act of reaching out, addressing the concerns, and really asking for a second shot. Fast forward, let's see here, what is that? Fast forward to October, so January to October, they go from a 1-star to a 3-star to a 5-star. And this is what the person says. Bunkies is giving back to the community. Thank you to the wonderful owners of Bunkies Cafe who supported the Madison Reading Project this past weekend, hosting our fundraiser. Business owners helping out their neighbors get an A+ from me. So continue to have great experiences, great food, great service, and they really turned the situation around. So hurrah, Bunkies. Really good example of just really being proactive, making sure you're on top of things that are being said about you online, and the benefits that you reap if you're approaching it the right way. All right, let's talk about the funny. So the example I'm using today is something more in terms of the way in which you can infuse your business's personality into your response while still adding value. So this is a great example from Beehive Oven Biscuit Cafe in New York. Here's what they get. So this reviewer, they write a review that says, when you come into this part of Brooklyn, you must prepare yourself for a lack of parking. Just know you'll be circling for at least half an hour. Once we got inside, we were hungry to notice the decor. We were too hungry to notice the decor, but we got stumped by the menu. Everything sounded great. We got the deviled eggs. They were okay, nothing spectacular. The biscuit or bread you get when you come in is delicious. I elected to make my own biscuit, chicken biscuit and egg, and I spread and can't pronounce. And a spread I can't pronounce, excuse me. It was good, but it was on the small side, like a snack. My friend got the Sandra, which I pronounced different from our waiter, and he seemed miffed that I didn't, and he corrected me. Sorry, my mom pronounced her name that way. Anywho, this place was good, but I've had better. It's not worth the parking aggravation. All right, so there's a lot to work with here, and depending on your business's personality, as I mentioned, you may want to handle this a couple different ways. But here's what I thought was very clever in terms of how the business responded. Hey, Ebony, thanks for taking the time to write this. I can certainly understand that parking is a challenge. Wrestling with that part of living in Gotham is what we do, and you get an amen from me on that. It definitely can make one a bit hungrier than expected. I'm sorry that we didn't pronounce your mother's name correctly. The biscuit sandwich is named after our grandmother, Sandra. She was very special to us and taught us so many good things. When we pronounce her name, as she did, we feel like we're honoring her. She was a kind person. I spoke with your waiter about your interaction, and as a good waiter should, he said he was verifying that you were ordering the Sandra and not the Charlotte. We like to check if we're not sure. I'm sure your mother is a lovely lady, and if you choose to come back, perhaps you can tell us about her. So, really great response. Not only do they address and acknowledge, the parking issue that's clearly an issue in and around that area in which this restaurant is located, but then they also infuse some information and educate the user about, the use of the name in terms of naming the biscuit sandwich after their grandmother. Really, really well done and adds a lot of value to any consumer that sees this response. All right, the good. So 1010 Optics, optometrist and eyewear in New York. When you have a good response, when you have a great review, show off a good rapport you have with your happy customers. Again, if you want to send a private message that is quick and to the point, just thanking them for the review, you can do it that way. But as I mentioned earlier, if you're seeing or recalling a certain interaction with a reviewer based on their description of their experience, go ahead and demonstrate that with a public comment. So 5-star review from Valerie K. What she says about 1010 Optics. I could not recommend a better place than 1010 Optics for eyewear. As I had my own ophthalmologist fax in my prescription, I can't speak for the doctor, but the staff is incredibly helpful and friendly. From frame to frame, explanations as to why some were a good choice versus others, to costs and differences, he was fantastic and made what is generally a grueling task for me a pretty painless one. I left without checking into Yelp, not realizing there was an offer for prescription eyewear, and he honored the cost difference as well. In 3 days, I had my glasses ready to be picked up, and I couldn't be happier. Outside of one more day, miraculously waking up with perfect vision, that is. They also carried brands that you normally don't find in your everyday storefront, and vastly different styles than what you'd expect. Awesome. Now, the smart thing about what the business does is they don't leave this hanging. They chime in and pepper in their side. They show off the great report with their response. So here's what they had to say. Hi, Valerie. Thanks for the shout out. We adore our eclectic eyewear collections, same as you. Trying on different looks until you find the one that's your match is so much fun. I'm so glad you enjoyed your search. No pain, all gain. Best and special thanks, Ruth. Awesome, right? This is so great. I think that this not only demonstrates their personality, but also just the relationships they have with the customers and how much they care. So definitely something worth keeping in mind when you do get those great reviews on your business page on Yelp. So how do you stay on top of all of this? It's a lot. I mean, for some of your businesses, you probably receive a decent amount of reviews, on a given week. And so really want to make sure that this is manageable for you and it's not a headache, but it's actually something that you can chip away at over the course of a day, a week, a month, etc. So my first piece of advice is to opt in for email notifications. So what that means is when you go log into the desktop version of biz.yelp.com, there's a section titled Account Settings. And in there, you can go ahead and you'll see this pop up here where you can opt in for managing your email preferences and select the emails that you want to receive. You can say, yes, send me an email when someone reviews my business, send me an email when somebody messages me. You can send me an weekly email with information about how my business is performing on Yelp. And then you can hit Save Settings. You'll get email notifications for any of the things that you opt in for. But then you can also opt in for push notifications on the free Biz app on iOS and Android phones. So if you want to go to this landing page, you can actually request or get direct links to the stores. But then you can also, within the settings here, it looks just like this on the mobile phone. You can go to Settings and hit Preferences and say, opting in yes for new messages, please opt in push notifications on my lock screen for new reviews, and then you're able to just log in on the go and go ahead and respond. So we went over a lot. I hope it was helpful. Let's just kind of recap real quick before we open it up for questions here. First things first, we talked about the fact that consumers are turning to Yelp specifically when they're preparing to spend money at a local business. And your best bet is to join the conversation that's going on online by logging into biz.yelp.com or through the mobile app for business owners and uploading a photo of yourself if it's the first time you're responding to reviews. From there, you want to make sure that you are actually thanking reviewers for their feedback. Show off your personality in your responses, your business personality. Let them know what actions are being taken to fix the situation if it's a negative review, but then also show off, the humorous side of things when appropriate. And then lastly, keep on top of it all and stay focused by just setting up email notifications, mobile push notifications to ensure that you're able to respond in a timely fashion. So, questions and resources. Before we open it up for questions, I wanted to share a few helpful resources. First and foremost, if you recall the website Ask Jeeves, where you could type in any question and in the search bar and then a bunch of relevant resources pop up, we have a very similar model on yelp.com/support. So if I do not get to your questions, please go there. There's a ton of information for you to take a look at. If you want a Yelp logo or a sticker, find us on Yelp logo or sticker. Go to yelp.com/brand, and you can download a number of legally approved logos. You can also request a Find Us on Yelp sticker. If you have a question about today's webinar, you can go ahead and email bizoutreach@yelp.com. We will be sending a follow-up email a day after today with all of these links included as well. And then just get ready to join the conversation, log in, and start responding to your reviews today at biz.yelp.com. Thank you guys so much. All right, I'm going to just keep this screen up actually, but we will go ahead and go for some questions here. All right, so Lisa, good question. How do owners deal with a review which is not a customer? It's unfair that a review should remain posted. So a couple things here, Lisa. So we do have recommendation software in place, which aims to highlight the most useful and reliable reviews out of the millions that are submitted to our site. The things that would cause a review to go into the not recommended section are things like, somebody who goes on, writes one review and never comes back to the site. If we see that it's something that might be coming from the same IP address or spammy, something that's been, has a connection to the business from a friend, family, loved one, that's something that might be pushed into the not currently recommended section. So there is a quality control in place that is 100% automated and there's no human bias involved. The second thing, though, that you can do is you can also flag a review for our user support team to evaluate. Now, if you are going to flag a review, a couple things to note. You're going to want to look at the links that are available when you flag a review that link to our terms of service and content guidelines. We're not going to take sides in factual disputes, so you want to make sure that if it's in violation of something and you're seeing that in our terms of service or content guidelines, to go ahead and submit that when you're flagging that review. Lastly, if the review remains up, you can definitely respond to the review. I wouldn't go the route of saying this is not a customer of mine. What I would do, though, is I would go ahead and say, hey, it sounds like, if this was your interaction, here's actually how we approach this service or product, etc. Would love to discuss this with you further if there was something else that went awry. That would be the way I'd approach it. I'd approach it as if it was a customer, just to be on the safe side. And also, it really shows off your great customer service skills if anyone else comes about that review. Good question here from Jody. What if we get slammed for something we cannot fix? Example, opening with a menu that was a bit too aggressive and had to be slimmed down. Customers trashed us for not having all we promised to offer. Suggestions. Actually, you know what? This is something I think you can fix, and I would definitely utilize the public comment tool here. If you just had a soft opening, it sounds like, and you were getting some feedback, which I can tell you right now is very, very common to have something like an onslaught of reviews that are a little bit more critical in terms of things that you can improve on, and it's definitely something you can turn around very quickly. Start responding publicly to those and just say, hey, it sounds like this is something that was a common piece of feedback for us. We're actually in progress, or we've actually gone ahead and updated the menu based on this feedback. Come back and try us out again. Encouraging that is the best thing you can do. You can also, just respond publicly with a few and then send a few private messages as well. But I think that's going to be something that if you had that many people interested in your restaurant to begin with, and maybe it wasn't perfect from the get-go, which people are would completely understand, just invite them back. Let them know, hey, thanks so much. We've actually changed it. I think you'll be really excited about this. Come on back in. We'd love to have you. Hope that helps. This is a good question that I see a lot, and actually a few of you are submitting it. If you're just joining Yelp on behalf of your brand, how far back is it okay to go back and comment publicly or privately? Good question, Anastasia. You know what? I don't think it's ever too late. I think, having some humility in the response and just saying, hey, I'm just, taking the reins on our Yelp account, or I'm just getting into the swing of things here. Owning that right from the get-go is going to be your best bet. People are going to understand that. Everyone gets into the Yelp game at some point or another, and it's never too late to get started. As far as how back to go, I would say, if you're seeing trends in certain reviews as far as feedback goes on either certain products or services that you provide, I would go ahead and address some of those publicly if you have made changes to those things. And then also use the private message to introduce yourself as the new, as the owner or the manager taking over the page, and let them know, hey, would love to meet you. If you're ever in need of my product or service again, come back in, would love to meet you. Things like that go a long way, and I just don't think it's never too late to respond to something if you're seeing trends. A couple people asking for screenshots of the stats. I can actually do you one better. So yelp.com/fact sheet send all. So I'm going to send that in the questions platform. You can check out our, you'll be able to see all of our updated quarterly metrics since our most recent earnings call, and that'll give you a lot of good, valuable data. Question from Stephanie, can you have multiple accounts for one business? You can have multiple logins for one business, but so in order to do that, you can go to yelp.com/support and type in, like I said earlier, like a question, multiple logins or multiple accounts ? And there's a resource or a link in there that can guide you through how to go about actually creating additional logins for your business account. Winston, great question. Can we post a review on Instagram? Yes. So there's a few things that you can do. One thing that I think would be worth sharing is once you've responded to your reviews, you'll have those two options. Send a private message or post a public comment. To the very far right side of the review itself, when you're logged in on desktop, you're going to see an option. It's going to look like a little arrow icon. That arrow icon actually will allow you to post great reviews on your Twitter account, your Twitter for Business account if you have one, and also your Facebook business page. You can also email the review to your staff if there's something you want to discuss with them later on. But the other thing you can do is screenshot, your review, your great review for the day, and you can also post it on your Instagram account. Christina, good question. We're a healthcare organization with many providers. How do we handle the picture requirements? Sure thing. So you can go ahead and upload a photo of whoever you believe will be responding to the majority of those reviews. You can also swap out that photo. So if you're finding that one person wants to hand over the reins to somebody else, you can change that at any time. So I would just make sure it's one point person. Make sure it's one point person. You can also update the name within the Meet the Owner Manager section if you ever want to change who it's from. As a safeguard, though, a lot of businesses end up actually signing their name underneath the comment just so they know who it's coming from within the business if somebody else is taking over while someone's on vacation, for example. Terry, do you recommend public responses to all reviews? I think that it really varies. I would say that if you are finding, I don't think it hurts. Here's the thing. To me, I think that posting something publicly lets people know that you are transparent and you are actually demonstrating great customer service no matter who the audience is that is witness to it. I always think that if it's more of a critical or sensitive review to begin with, it never hurts to just send a private message first and then follow it up with a public comment a day or two later if you're not getting much response. Reason being there is just that if you want to try and have some kind of an offline dialogue, that would be a good way to go about it. But I do think that posting something publicly allows consumers to know that you are on top of it and you do care about this feedback. So I think the more the merrier. It's really ultimately your call, but I think it is a good idea. The one thing I will say is you don't want to public comment to everything if you are using a templated cookie cutter response. That just ruins the entire essence of these messaging tools. I think the biggest thing that you want to think about is when you're responding publicly is to just really pepper in that it's a authentic and personalized response. So if you have hypothetically 50 reviews that are all great positive reviews and you don't recall all of them, I would go ahead and send a really thoughtful private message that says, hey, name, thank you so much for this review. Really hope to see you again soon if you ever have a need for what we provide. And then you can take that and send it privately to several people. That's where I would kind of draw the line. A lot of good questions here. I'm trying to see if I can combine a few of these to make sure I'm addressing as many as I can. Good question, Maria. Why would a 5-star review be not recommended? Sure. So when it comes to our recommendation software, it's actually looking at how the reviewer is interacting and engaging on Yelp. So a review, there are 4 main reasons why a review might not be recommended. So first and foremost, it could be coming from a user that our recommendation software doesn't know a lot about. They're new to the site. We don't know enough about them. They're not engaging very much on Yelp yet, so therefore we don't recommend them. Another reason is it's something we've identified as possibly fake or spammy. So true story, there's somebody from Texas who paid someone in Bangladesh $100 to write 200 5-star reviews for their business. Those reviews were flagged and suppressed to the not recommended section. Third is it's something that we think has a connection, the reviewer has a connection to the business owner, their friend, family, loved one, etc. That may go into the not recommended section. And then finally, we don't highlight every single rant or rave. So it goes beyond star rating that our algorithm is actually looking at. What's the process for flagging a review, Veronica, excuse me. Good question. So when you're in your business account or on the mobile app, you can actually flag a review. When you flag a review, a pop-up and a drop-down menu will appear on your screen. It's going to say something like our support team evaluates the reviews based on our terms of service and content guidelines. Those words, content guidelines, and terms of service will be hyperlinked so you can access those pages. When you flag a review, I would recommend evaluating and reviewing those pieces of information on our site, and then going ahead and flagging the review, submitting the reason why you believe it's in violation of our terms of service, submitting that to our team. Within 5 business days, you'll get a response letting you know the resolution. Yes, we're going to take this down, or no, we're not going to take this down. And that's the typical process. So many good questions. Let's see here. Good question from Sue. We are a veterinary clinic. How do you respond to feedback that only gives the owner's side to an unfortunate situation where their pet passed away while at our hospital? You know, I would just show some empathy, Sue. I think that when somebody's emotional, and I think when somebody loses a loved one, and you know, when you think about, I always just think about how I would respond in a face-to-face situation with a loved one or with somebody who shared that information with me. You know, I think that it's nice to always empathize, and I think a public comment to say, you know, we are so heartbroken over the loss of your puppy, you know, we know it loved this kind of treat, or we were taking care of it to the best of our abilities. I think that's the best way you can go. You know, I think if it's not too late, you know, I personally would say something like, you know, we'd love to send, you know, a little care package to you. It's never easy to lose, you know, a dog, you know, wishing you all the best. I think that would be the only way I would handle it if you wanted to. I think that just shows that you are a very empathetic business, and what you do is tied to some people's very, 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 very favorite, you know, animals, and they're, you know, sometimes they're best friends. So I would just go that route if you were going to respond. All right, a lot of questions on responding and how long to, or how far back to go on responses. Let's see if I can fast forward here. Marie, funny, thanks. No worries on the no worries on the capitalizing. If no response from the team after 5 business days, does that mean they just decided not to remove it? No, you should get a response. So if they are, you know, if they have an extensive backlog of flags right now, then it may be a little bit longer than 5 business days. That seems to be the average response time. If it goes any longer than a couple more days, Marie, I would recommend, if you go to the yelp.com/support page that's up on the screen, I would go ahead and just say reevaluate my flagged review is what I think you want to type in, and just make sure that they're seeing it. Odds are that they will respond in the next couple days if it has been more than 5 days. But you can go ahead and ask for a review to be reevaluated if you're not getting anything. But I would imagine just hang tight and they should get back to you soon. Elise, so why can one business not review another business? Oh, good question. So couple things here. Business owners still are able to have their own Yelp consumer accounts. Yelp consumer accounts, I know dozens and dozens of businesses that use Yelp as consumers. Most of us do. But several businesses and business owners do write reviews for other businesses that they've interacted with. I think the thing you want to be careful with is we don't allow businesses to, all meet up and write reviews for one another, because that's obviously trying to game the system. But you can absolutely, if you're having day-to-day experiences at businesses in your area, then you can certainly write reviews for them. Carrie, what if someone gives a bad review but claims things that are untrue? Cleaning business. Great question. So one, again, you can always flag this to our support team if it's in violation of terms of service and content guidelines. One good example of this, especially with cleaning businesses, I actually just came across something along these lines. So one thing that would be in violation that would be worth flagging to our team is if it's not a first-hand experience. So I actually was looking myself for a new cleaning service for my apartment, and I found this business on Yelp, and one of the reviews I came across said, yeah, my friend hired this company and got totally ripped off. They had things stolen, so on and so forth. Now, the fact that they started with my friend and it's not an experience of their own, I flagged that review as a consumer and said this is not a first-hand experience. So you can go ahead and flag it if it's in violation of any of our terms of service. I would check that out first. But beyond that, even regardless of what the resolution is there, I would go ahead and respond publicly if there's something that is really misrepresented there, and be as poised and diplomatic as possible, saying things like, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. One approach that I've seen work is, I'm having a hard time pulling up any files with your name. I'm unsure if you're using an alias on Yelp, but would love to find out more. Here's, we have an A+ rating on the BBB, and, we run background checks. Whatever the issue is, I'm just using the example of the review I came across and flagged, claiming there was stolen items, etc. But I would just go that route and say, gosh, I'm having trouble finding you in our records. We actually have a lot of great accreditations to our name, and we pride ourselves on that. We've yet to have any other issue like this in the 10 years we've been in business. I don't know how long you've been in business, but I would use it to your advantage, and publicly comment with something like that. Maria, is there a way to know how many 3+ star reviews we need to get a higher star rating? I guess you could do the average, like average out the stars that you have right now and see. I think rather than focusing on that and crunching numbers, I think your better bet would be to just continue to provide incredible service. Setting up things like a check-in offer where people check into your business or purchase a Yelp deal, or have a badge, things like that. We actually prompt the user next time they log into Yelp's desktop platform. We'll say, hey, you recently checked into this business. Would you like to write a review? We do a little bit more of the marketing for you there, and I would handle it that way. As I mentioned earlier, great customer service seems to relay to what the online rating is for a business, at least when it comes to Yelp and how people are rating businesses. So I would focus on that and allow the reviews to organically kind of come into play. Lisa's follow-up question, how does Yelp determine first-hand experience? So the first-hand experience, if it's in the, they're actually going to be looking at the text within the body of the review. So my example, or the review I came across just recently myself for cleaning services, said, my friend hired this company. So the fact that this person opens up with my friend had this experience, that indicates very clearly that it was not a first-hand experience. So it's got to be very clear in the body of the review. All right, we're going to take a few more questions. It looks like things are dropping off a little bit. Let's see here. Judy, I'm sorry, let me see. No, I'm not trying to intentionally skip over you. There's just a lot of questions that are coming in at the same time, and I'm trying to see if I can address as many in one fell swoop. Judy, why are the reviews shown on my business from 3 to 5 years? Why are the reviews shown on my business 3 to 5 years old? I'm in a new location, and while the reviews are good, they're no longer really effective or relevant to my current business with 30 or more reviews not showing up. Help, this needs to be changed. And then you have a follow-up I saw further down about, hold on. Old photos of my studio the reviewer put up is not great to have when the new studio is so much better. Okay, so here's what I'd recommend on both accounts. When you are on the public page, public-facing side of your business page, I would go ahead and edit the page. Click the edit button. You're going to get a new page that will appear. At the very bottom of the page, there's a note section, and say, hey, we went under like major renovations, or we moved. There are several photos and reviews that are from the old location. Things have updated. What are my next steps to just cleaning up my page? From there, our support team will evaluate it. I would also include before and after. So if you have a new website, if you have anything that you can show that demonstrates the changes, that will help them kind of start the conversation with you on what they're able to clean up and what you're able to do. Hope that helps. All right, I think we are almost at time. Let's see here. So I think there's a lot of questions about how do I figure out if this person who wrote a review is a real customer of mine or not, based on just the limited info about their profile. Your best bet, as I mentioned earlier, is to go ahead and just message. I would privately message them initially if there's something where you're trying to figure out who it is, and then follow it up, like I said, 24 to 48 hours later with a public comment, just to cover your bases with anyone who sees that review. Either way, just say, hey, this sounds like a really terrible interaction, or it sounds like it's not, our business typically doesn't run this way. Really trying to pull you up, having trouble doing so with, your first name and last initial based on your Yelp account. Think we could chat, would love to fix this, definitely want to solve for it, and go that route and see if you can start getting a conversation offline with them. That is really a good way to approach it, and I think that as you start interacting, you're going to see the response rate and responsiveness of that and how effective it is. So we will end there. Thank you all so much for being here and attending this, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. Take care. Bye-bye.